everyone. This is What Happened This Week, a new thing I'm starting on the Plan C feed where I'm going to talk about sports for 15 minutes for people who don't usually pay attention to sports. So I'm going to do sports stuff. I'm trying to explain it for people who don't follow. I'm going to try and do it at least once a week. So I hope you enjoy. And any topics you want me to cover, hit my DMs, email us at, well, not at, but plancpod@gmail.com. Plancpod, all one word, no spaces, no underscores or periods and nothing. Other than that, I hope you enjoy this episode and the others to follow. If you haven't checked out other pods, you should do so, as we have a lot of great conversations, interviews, and heartfelt moments on there. Thanks for listening, and here we go. Alright, welcome back. So, today, I felt the first thing I wanted to talk about, new sports. I don't know if it's even a new sports, or rather a new podcast. I think I'm just going to put this on Plan C feed. Anyway, so the three topics that I'm going to get to today are the NBA All-Star Game. There was a crazy trade not a crazy trade, but a impactful trade in the NFL, and I'm going to talk about what's going on with my favorite soccer team this year. Obviously, if you're new, what's up? Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoy this sort of new content we are trying. Yeah, so I'm talking about how the NBA All-Star Game, is it necessary? Right now, the NBA they're playing through COVID. There's a bunch of teams that have been impacted. I actually think at least 2/3 of the teams have been impacted by COVID in terms of having to reschedule matches, having to postpone matches, whatever it is. These are teams that are being affected by it. And so now they want to have an all-star game, which is they're going to bring all these players together that have been traveling all over the country, right? And, there's COVID protocols. Yes. But you're starting to mix here, right? This isn't the type of thing like a championship where it's necessary for the season to end. It's simply just because the TV stations and the NBA, I think they need the money. So they're saying, okay, it's fine. We're going to be fine. We're just going to do this. Either way, it was going to be a tough decision. And I feel like they're trying to recoup money in Adam Silver. He did have a hard decision to make. I just think he made the wrong choice because the NBA right now can barely continue games without COVID postponements. So you suddenly think bringing all these people together is smart? If they did a bubble or something, which a lot of people said was unfeasible for this season, I think that definitely could have worked because then, you just have everyone playing the same game. You can even have like families come in and blah, 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 blah. I think it's a bad thing because why take an unnecessary risk when there are players that are clearly disinterested and also think that this is a bad idea. And the way they're going to do it is, so they're going to have it all on one night, right? So usually with NBA All-Star Weekend, you have one night for the dunk contest and all those special competitions. You have one night for like the celebrity game and, the young players game. And then the final night is the All-Star Game. This year, they're starting at 5 p.m., right? And they're doing the 3-point contest and what they call the skills challenge first. And then they're going to begin the game at 8 and do the dunk contest at halftime. So they're taking 3 days, they're squishing it into one. And first of all, I don't even think they're making players quarantine before they come in. So games are stopping on the 5th, and then they're resuming on the 10th. So it's like, wait, we're traveling to Atlanta, playing in this game that you are deeming necessary for what? You know, why do we need the All-Star game this year? Was anyone really losing their mind and being like, "Oh man, I'm really going to miss the All-Star game this year?" No, they're not. It's a blatant cash grab by Turner and the NBA. And I think that putting the players and the players' families at risk, it's not responsible. Also, NBA, I see you. You're not low. I know what you're doing putting this in Atlanta. For people who don't know, Atlanta is like currently, I don't even know how to describe it, like the club headquarters. Like if you want to party in America right now, you go to Atlanta. They've got great clubs, great strip club. I'm not speaking from personal experience. I've actually never been to Atlanta. I've been to Georgia, never Atlanta. So, you know, I see you, NBA, where you're trying to, I imagine they're kind of like, oh, you know, vacation from the NBA in Atlanta, you know, come hang out, blah, 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 blah. I think that was maybe a little carrot by the NBA. I don't remember where the game was specifically supposed to be originally, but anyway, I have 30 seconds left on this topic because I have a lovely little timer. So I just say it's stupid and not necessary. Why not give them just like 10 days off? Just give them a break. You know, what the hell is the point of this? I don't understand, and I think it's extremely selfish, and I don't think it's a good idea. All right, topic number 2. I'm not sure if I'm gonna have some nice little transition thing. I'm not sure. You know, first time doing this. Well, not first time, but you know what I'm saying. Anyway, so the next thing I'm gonna talk about is in the NFL. There was a trade. And before I'm going to get into the nitty-gritty details about what happened, I'm going to give you the real world comparison, and then we're going to go from there just so people who don't watch sports, you can sort of understand the gravity, I guess, of what I'm talking about. Okay. So, a quarterback in the NFL was recently traded, and basically what pretty much happened is, imagine you are selling assets for an insane house, right? A house you have never owned. You've never owned anything like it. Nothing like that. And, you know, you make the decision, all right, fuck it. I'm going to get this house and it's going to be great. And I'm going to have to pay it off for a little bit. Well, not a little bit. It's a big house, you know. But, you know, there are risks involved. And you move in, and for like the first year and a half, everything's fantastic. It's fantastic. Some things are even better than you thought it was. Was? I'm not sure. Anyway, so then, you know, after your little honeymoon period, the roof falls in. Fixable, but complicated, right? Okay. So you fix the house, right? You know, time's moving on, time's going on, and the house is fine. You know, you maybe could have spent more on a contractor, but you know, the house is fine. Eventually, the house is, you know, 6 more months pass, and the house is really starting to fall apart now, and you're starting to wonder, oh man, is this asset I have now becoming toxic because shit happens. You know, it eventually starts getting worse and worse and worse until you don't hate the asset anymore. You're just like, why do I even have this? I just need to get rid of this. So then, you know, the house is now a shell of itself, and you sell the land for pennies on the dollar and you take the loss. That's what we're dealing with here. So now, to get more specific, the house in this situation is former Eagles quarterback Carson Wentz. And the way Carson Wentz entered the league was he was the second overall draft pick in 2016 in the NFL draft. And the Eagles traded a lot of draft capital, so they didn't have the second overall pick, right? The Cleveland Browns did. But the Eagles had the 8th pick. So they're like, okay, I'm going to take my 8th pick, my number 77 pick, and my pick for next year in the first round. Basically, they took a lot of assets, gathered them all, and were like, here, we want the second overall pick so we can draft this quarterback. Awesome. But it didn't go so well as described in my analogy, right? That was the trade to go trade up for him, right? So that asset has a lot of capital tied to it now. And so now when the value of that asset has decreased so much as it did, the Eagles were like, oh, we got to get off of this because it clearly wasn't working. So they agreed to trade this quarterback who, in only 2016, 5 years ago. Wow, has 2016 really been 5 years ago? That's sad. Anyway, 5 years ago, they put all of their assets into this basket. And now they flipped the asset for like pennies on the dollar. So what they got for trading this quarterback who, Wentz was great. But, it's still a loss in the trade because you're giving up this quarterback who you put all this money into, or not money, but, all this capital into, and you're only getting a third round pick and a second round pick. For those of you who don't know, that's like, in my opinion, you could probably do better on assets, but at the same time, it was just, I don't even want to say toxic, but the two sides, the Eagles and Carson Wentz, it wasn't going to happen. So anyway, I'm going a little over. Winners and losers before I get out of here. Or not get out of here, but move on to my third topic. In Indianapolis, who Carson Wentz got traded to, they're getting a potential comeback story of the year. So I think Indy's a winner because they didn't have to give too much to get somebody who could potentially be a superstar. I don't think he will get there because I think he physically isn't in the same shape. But anyway, I think Philly is a winner and a loser because loser for the amount they gave up and how bad it went in the end, but a winner for at least getting something in the end. And that's my take on the trade. All right, my lovely pod listeners, one last one, and then I'm going to get the hell out of here, and it'll be all great and such. Now, I'm going to be talking about Liverpool Football Club and what the hell has happened to them this year. Because for those of you who don't follow, Liverpool in the past 2 years were on a tear. They're on an absolute tear, winning almost every trophy you can within that 2-year stretch. They won the biggest competition in Europe. They won the biggest competition in their own league, which is the Premier League. Yes, separate from the competition in Europe. They also won, there's this thing called the Club World Cup, which I personally don't put too much into, but I don't know, the teams seem to be excited about it. Anyway, they've fallen off this year. Last year, they literally won their league. And this year, they're in 6th place, 19 points off the top. For those of you who don't know, I think I'm just going to say that a lot. For those of you who don't know, the way soccer works in England and just in Europe is for every win you get 3 points. For every loss, you get 0 points. For every draw, you get 1 point. So at the end of the season, all those points are tallied up. Whoever has the most points wins. Easy enough. Unless it's like a tournament setting, but that's neither here nor there. Again, they've fallen off, and right now, I think they're in their worst stretch because they've lost 4 straight games in the Premier League, so that's facing other teams in England, and they were playing at such a level last year that you thought it's not that I didn't think it could continue. I just didn't believe it would continue at that level. I didn't think they would fall off as hard as they did, but trash. A real world comparison I threw together, I said running a marathon, winning it, then breaking your leg training for the next one, and still trying to run it a week or two later. Just because Liverpool have also been hit with some serious injuries. A bunch of their best players, I think 2 of them had some pretty bad ligament damage, and some of their best attackers have had muscular problems. And so when that happens, you have to rely on younger players and younger talent that's not as good. So those players who aren't used to playing at that level I think the fatigue sets in more, and they're not able to sort of keep that focus because you don't feel as good playing. Obviously, COVID-19 has a big part in this because they're not able to play with the fans in the stadium. So I think that there's a lack of atmosphere that certainly plays it plays a role, right? It plays a role. If you're used to playing in front of 50,000 people and then you take the 50,000 people away, it's going to be different. You're going to play different. I also think that just lack of motivation, last year and the last 2 years, they won a lot. They won a lot of stuff, and almost every competition they were in, they won. But now that you've already been there and that you've already done it, the motivation isn't necessarily going to be as strong unless you're Tom fucking Brady, because you're like, oh, I'm not going to have to worry about a blight being on my career because I won the Premier League. You can't say that I never won the Premier League because I did it last year. And, it's just more on like the young player stuff. When you're missing players like that, it just leads to a lack of valid tactics against high level competition. So you're not going to be able to play the way you want to, and it's going to lead to either you being really conservative or taking risks you shouldn't and getting burned. And that's happened to Liverpool many times this year. Is there a hope for fixing it? I would say yes, because Liverpool's, in my opinion, their best player, Virgil van Dijk, he has been missing for a while, and he is very important to what they want to do, and his athleticism and size is very good for, the pressing style that they apply. And so when you take him out, it's like, okay, now what? He's also a very vocal leader in that locker room. So I think when there's at least 3 big players who are not playing right now, and Liverpool, they don't have defenders. They don't have central defenders to play. They're playing like 19-year-olds against men who do this for a living. And I'm not saying the 19-year-olds are bad, but, there's a certain amount of experience that is required. Anyway, I do think there's hope for fixing it, and I hope they'll get there soon. We'll see. All right, so I'm hoping once I edit it, I can get this all down to 15 minutes. I thank you all very much for listening. Hope to see you next week. I'm going to try and put these out every day on Wednesdays, sort of do like a Wednesday morning type thing so you can wake up middle of the week, have a little something. Anyway, thank you for listening. If you are, check out previous podcasts that we have done. I hope that people listen to this. And, if you agreed, disagreed with something, hit me up. I'd love to talk about it. Thanks again for listening. Hope you stay safe, wear a mask, and have a good one.